A lot can happen in a year's time, and in the world of mixed martial arts, you can go from the prelims to world champion in just 365. You could become a legend, all in just that short amount of time. So today we're going to be counting down the fighters who had the single best years this sport has ever seen, be it on the calendar or a run that spanned that amount of time between two. This is a companion piece to the worst years video we did in 2019, just a lot more triumphant. I'm Tommy from MMA On Point, and these are the 10 best high-profile years for a fighter in MMA history. Number 10. Amanda Nunes. In retrospect, Amanda Nunes' 2016 is even more impressive than it appeared to be at the time. She started her campaign against Valentina Shevchenko to kick off the pay-per-view at UFC 196. She would win the fight via unanimous decision, 29-28, and a pair of 29-27s. A victory that at the time was not particularly notable, but of course given the incredible career the Bullet has had since, it's a huge win and far more clear-cut than her later title defense against the flyweight GOAT. From there, Nunes was given a chance at then bantamweight champion Miesha Tate, who became the unlikely queen of the division after a shocking late-fight submission victory over Holly Holm on the same card as Nunes Shevchenko won. Holm was just coming off her massive win over Ronda Rousey, and so for Miesha to knock her off in such dramatic fashion as the co-main event on a huge card like McGregor Diaz won, she had all the momentum in the world, and Amanda was sort of seen as an afterthought, a 3-1 dog coming in. She would destroy Tate in less than 3 minutes, leaving her a bloody mess after a submission win. This set up a fight nobody could have seen coming against Ronda Rousey at UFC 207. The sport's biggest star was returning after a year in self-exile following the home loss, and if you thought Nunes was being overlooked before the Tate fight, it's like she didn't even exist coming into 207. She would end Rousey's career in less than a minute and finally get some respect put on her name. She's gone on to beat just about everyone who is anyone, but no single year span in her career can top 2016. Number 9. Jorge Masvidal. If 2019 taught us anything, it's that it's never over. 45 fights into his 16-year career, there wasn't a damn soul that thought the next big thing in mixed martial arts was going to be Jorge Masvidal. And if you did, you were either related to him or a liar. Hell, even people close to Jorge couldn't have imagined what would happen. After a year and a half away, Masvidal was brought in as a sacrificial lamb of sorts against Darren Till in London, meant to be a good name win for the up-and-coming UK star. But a shocking first-round KO would lead to a legendary backstage altercation with Leon Edwards and subsequent Brett Okamoto interview.
So I had to get in the 3-piece with the soda.
And just like that, we were off to the races. Where things really escalated was the perfect alignment of all the factors leading into his next bout with Ben Askren at UFC 239. The hype behind Ben in the UFC was still nuts.
George needs to know, I don't get full on a 3-piece and a soda. He better bring the whole damn family meal for that night.
Undefeated guy, massive story in the sport. He gives him his first loss in the most dramatic way possible with that flying knee 5 seconds in. Masvidal was now a main eventer. He was a draw. He was the talk of the sport, and he capitalized on that later that year against the ultra-popular Nate Diaz at UFC 244 for the BMF title, something they just made up for the fight because the promotion knew fans would eat it up. The event was massive, the biggest that year behind Khabib's title defense, and that was built almost entirely on the back of Masvidal's 2019. While he wouldn't win any divisional championships as a result of his incredible year, his main event status and back-to-back title shots are a testament to just how amazing that run really was. Number 8. Mirko Cro Cop. When we think of all the murder-tacular moments in the career of Mirko Cro Cop, it's really amazing how many of them happened in just about a year's span of time. And when you have a career that long and that awesome, this can happen over the course of a few different years. Like 2016, when he won the Ryzen Openweight Grand Prix at 42 years old, defeating 4 opponents, all with finishes. Or the year in the lead-up to the Fedor fight, where he beat Shungo Oyama, Alexander Emelianenko, Josh Barnett, Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman, and Ibrahim Magomedov, finishing them all in the first round. A total ring time of 12 minutes 9 seconds. So all 6 of them basically had about 2 minutes before Left Leg Cemetery. But the greatest single-year run of Cro Cop's career, in my humble MMA opinion, is the span of time from May 2006 to February 2007. It's here that Mirko enters the 2006 Pride Openweight Tournament. He kicks things off by destroying Minowa Man. A few months later, he leg kicked TKO's Hidehiko Yoshida. At Pride Final Conflict Absolute, Cro Cop head kick KO's Vanderlei Silva in an all-time highlight reel moment, the first time Vandy had ever been finished in Pride, and then he gets the TKO win over Josh Barnett in the finals. Not a single fight in the tournament made it out of the first round. He was supposed to rematch Fedor next at New Year's Eve, but that would all fall apart, and instead Mirko would finally make his UFC debut, his first ever fight outside of Japan. Of course, it would be against Tim Sylvia for the heavyweight title, right? No, the promotion didn't think US fans knew Cro Cop, so instead he debuted against Eddie Sanchez. Yay! lame. But it was still a massive debut, and he dominated the one-round fight. The hype was massive going into that next year where things would fall apart rapidly, but let's never forget that brief time that it looked like his UFC run was gonna be the best. Number 7. CODY GARBRANDT. In February of 2016, CODY GARBRANDT was set to take on Augusto Mendez as the third bout on an FS1 card. CODY was unbeaten at 7-0. He'd had 2 UFC bouts up to that point, both prelim matches the year previous. The fight was a catchweight as Mendez missed, and neither man was ranked in the bantamweight top 15. By the end of the year, GARBRANDT would be the division's champion, having knocked off arguably its greatest ever competitor. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, he had to beat Augusto, and he did with a first-round KO. Next, GARBRANDT got a huge opportunity. He would headline an FS1 card in Las Vegas against number 7 Thomas Almeida, who was massive hype at the time, with 4 straight UFC wins and 3 straight KO TKOs with an unbeaten record of 21-0. CODY was still unranked going into this one, but he wouldn't be after he knocked Almeida out in the first 3 minutes of the fight. Next, it was back to the prelims, but in the best way possible.
You're telling the truth.
Yeah, that's what happened.
The last bout before UFC 202, a massive Conor McGregor pay-per-view. He'd finally broken into the top 10 and would demolish Takeya Mizugaki in under a minute, earning him a number 5 ranking and a shot at his team's biggest rival, bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz. UFC 207 would be the peak of CODY's year and career, outclassing the Dominator on the feet in a way we'd never seen before, scoring 2 knockdowns in the 4th round and a clear victory on the cards when it was all said and done. While things haven't exactly gone great for GARBRANDT in the years since, nobody can take away that unbelievable rise through 2016. Number 6. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. There are few better single-year runs of dominance than that of Minotauro Nogueira in 2001. That's why he's on this list of top 10, of course. Rodrigo began with the 2000 King of Kings tournament finals, which actually took place in February of the next year. Good scheduling on that one, Rings. Antonio would have to win 3 fights in a single night to earn the distinction Triple H would later give himself for no reason.
I'm gonna tweet my displeasure.
To do so, Nog subbed Overeem's bro, Kanehara, and of course in the first round, he beat Magomedkyun Amanulovic Gamzathanov, but we just call him Volkan for obvious reasons. From there, the legendary Brazilian would move into Pride, where he would earn his legendary status. Nog's debut would see him catch Gary Goodridge in a triangle in under 3 minutes at Pride 15. At 16, he would put Mark Coleman away with a triangle armbar, breaking the impressive run that started with his 2000 Openweight GP tournament performance. And finally from there, Big Nog earned the inaugural Pride heavyweight title by defeating Heath Herring via unanimous decision. These 6 victories in 2001 pretty much sealed Nogueira's status as the best in the world. The only possible argument at the time would be for Randy Couture, but he would drop the UFC title to Josh Barnett shortly thereafter. Nogueira's dominance would continue to hold for another 5 straight victories before he was knocked off the perch by Fedor. Number 5. Dan Henderson. The single best 1-year span of Dan Henderson's career came 13 years and 33 fights in, after he'd already achieved most of the major accomplishments of his career. The UFC 17 tournament, the Rings King of Kings tournament, and the Pride welterweight and middleweight championships. In December of 2010, Hendo would KO Renato Sobral in just 2 minutes time at Strikeforce St. Louis, earning him a shot at Rafael Feijao's light heavyweight title. Less than a minute into the third, Dan punched his way to yet another world championship and a unique career opportunity, a heavyweight bout that July with Fedor Emelianenko. Now, Fedor's legendary streak had already been beaten by Fabricio Verdum's submission. He'd already lost to Bigfoot via doctor stoppage, but the true feather in Henderson's cap would be the first ever legit TKO victory over the last emperor in his entire career. And mind you, he did this weighing in at 207 pounds. With his contract up, Dano would return to the UFC and finish his year off by defeating Shogun Rua at UFC 139 in what many still consider the greatest fight of all time. The victory would earn Henderson a title shot against John Jones that he never had a chance to collect after the UFC 151 debacle. 4 wins, a world title, he finished a legend, and he won one of the best fights in the sport's history. Not a bad year for a guy in his 40s after over a decade of combat sports. Number 4. Shogun Rua. Young Mauricio would start his greatest year as the new blood from Shootabox and end it with people speculating that he'd surpassed even the great Vanderlei Silva. His campaign kicked off by literally stomping Hiromitsu Kanehara at Pride 29. This moved Shogun to 8-1, with 4 straight wins in the promotion, all coming via first-round KO TKO. Even with such an impressive start, entering the 2005 Pride Middleweight Grand Prix, he had a tough draw. Rampage Jackson, the man who made it to the finals of the last GP and had less than a year prior challenged Silva for the title. Despite being a huge betting underdog, the tournament's youngest fighter absolutely destroyed Jackson with nasty knees in the clinch and soccer kicks on the ground. He wasn't done though. Well, he was done with Rampage, I meant the tournament. Next, he would get a UD victory over the legendary Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, his first ever loss in Pride and only the second of his entire MMA career. The last 2 rounds of the tournament would take place at Pride Final Conflict 2005. Earlier in the night, a massive upset. Shogun's teammate Vanderlei Silva was defeated by Ricardo Arona, who was now headed for the finals. Hua would need to get past Alistair Overeem to do the same, and he did, scoring a TKO in the first 10 minutes. After Fedor and Krokop had their classic, it was time for Shogun to top this year off with a KO finish of Arona in under 3 minutes. The new kid in town was suddenly on top of the world, and with Silva having lost to the man he just destroyed, plenty of fans were speculating who was truly the best middleweight in Pride. Number 3, Royce Gracie. While he'll forever be best remembered for that initial UFC 1 victory and what it did for the sport, the best single year in his career would come after that, starting with UFC 2. In March of 1994, Royce would defeat 4 opponents to win the 16-man tournament: Minoki Ichihara, Jason DeLuca, Remco Pardo, and Patrick Smith. The last 3 bouts all took under 2 minutes, and he finished the tournament with his striking. Not a bad night. That September, he would kick off the opening round of the UFC 3 tournament by wrestling around with Kimo Leopoldo for about 5 minutes before finally getting the armbar. Exhausted by the big man, Gracie opted out of the rest of the tournament because you can't lose if you don't fight. That December, however, he would return for UFC 4, defeating Ron Van Cleef in the first round with a rear naked choke before armbarring Keith Hackney. In the finals, he would defeat the Beast Dan Severn with a triangle choke after 15 minutes 49 seconds. This would improve Royce's official record to an outstanding 11-0, 8 of those victories all coming in the year 1994. 8 wins in a single year, 2 seminal UFC tournament victories. Gracie had peaked. His career would never see such heights again, as he would draw with Ken Shamrock for the Superfight Championship and then leave the sport only to return in the 2000s and lose to Sakuraba and Matt Hughes. But for historical value and sheer volume, hard to take his 1994 off this list. Number 2, Conor McGregor. The mythical 2016 Conor was actually born in late 2015, when he had arguably the most impressive and greatest win of his career, the 13-second knockout of Jose Aldo to become the featherweight champion. It was as shocking an outcome as any. Many a fan felt like it was certainly possible that McGregor could win, but nobody expected the champ to go down like that. It was an all-time moment, and set up what was to be a historic and unprecedented move. Conor would go directly from winning one title to winning another, moving up to lightweight to take on Rafael dos Anjos for more gold. But less than 2 weeks before the show, RDA was forced to drop out, and Conor took a late replacement fight with fan favorite Nate Diaz at welterweight, because what's the worst that could happen? What, was Nate gonna snap his 15-fight unbeaten streak and choke him out in front of 1.3 million people? He did. Yeah, that's what happened. McGregor would obsess over Diaz for the next 5 months, and the two would put on a classic at UFC 202 with McGregor emerging victorious, ready to finally take that double champ status that had eluded him earlier in the year. And with that, we had McGregor's career crowning achievement, Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205. Insane performance by Conor, second round TKO. It's really a testament to how massive this year was that he could lose during it and still make the list. But it's hard to argue with 2 belts and massive pay-per-view numbers all around. Before we get to the winner, there were so many great single-year runs that almost made this list, but the one I would like to give a quick honorable mention to is Rampage Jackson's 2007. He made his UFC debut, knocked Chuck Liddell off the throne, and then unified the Pride and UFC titles by defeating Dan Henderson. Absolute killer. Alright, and our number 1 year is Fedor Emelianenko. Pride FC was known during its heyday for having the best heavyweights in the world, period, especially in the mid-2000s. The 3-man show at the top was Fedor, Big Nog, and Krokop, and that was pretty much a consensus. So of course, when the last Emperor knocked off the other 2 in that triad in a single year's time to solidify his place as the best fighter on the planet, yeah, he was gonna make number 1. In August of 2004, Fedor competed in the single night Pride Heavyweight GP finals. He was already champion at this point, and mowed through Mark Coleman in the first round before submitting Kevin Randleman in the quarters after just a bit of early trouble. On this night, he would meet Ogawa in the semis and make quick work, needing less than a minute to sink in the armbar. Nice and fresh for the finals later that night, which had already been determined, as Nogueira had scored a UD over Sergei Karatanov. Big Nog was bringing gold to the fight too, as he was the interim heavyweight champion, meaning this was both the tournament final and to unify the titles.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Such a huge fight. Unfortunately, an accidental headbutt would open up a cut that resulted in the fight being rain delayed, as it were. Blood rain, am I right? I'm an idiot. That New Year's Eve, they would headline the massive Pride Shockwave 2004, and this time Emelianenko would emerge victorious over his longtime rival, unifying the titles and winning the Grand Prix. After taking a short break from real competition to avenge his only on-record loss to Tsuyoshi Kosaka, Fedor would defeat a surging Crow Cop, as we talked about earlier in this video, via unanimous decision at Pride Final Conflict 2005 in one of the biggest fights in the history of combat sports. Things would get a bit canny in his career after that, but 04-05 was peak Fedor, and that year's span is hard to beat.
I'm Bailey from MMA On Point, and yes, we are finally here in our brand new office. Let's go check it out.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our MMA Challenge of the Week.
Today, I'm joined by the greatest referee in the world, Mr. Mark Goddard.
I would punch him straight in the back of the fucking head.
That's right, a brand new channel with brand new content. Welcome to Fight Front, the home of personality-driven MMA.
Today, it's an MMA challenge where I take the worst rated UFC character in UFC Undisputed 3 all the way to the heavyweight championship of the world.
And I'm reacting to Colin McGregor.
Make sure you scroll on down and hit subscribe because you do not want to miss all the new content coming your way on this brand new channel.
And hey, it's me, Tommy Toehold, and I'm rolling around on a damn monitor. Big ol' shout out to my dude Luke Taylor for editing this video together. You can find him and his awesome digital art on Twitter at @cooltome_. A big thank you to Ben Rosette, who provided that sweet tune you heard in the intro. Check out his music by clicking the link in the description and go give him a follow on his Instagram and Twitter page @BenRosette. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe. We've got 3 new videos or more for you every single week. Let us know what you thought of the video in the comments below. Follow On Point MMA on Twitter, and have yourself a wonderful day.